Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad. In the name of Allah, the All Merciful, the Most Merciful. So we are continuing the videos on the ayah and beliefs, and this time we're gonna address the big problem we defined last time, which is how do we find a strong truth, a statement that is strongly true. And strong truth, just as a reminder, is really the event occurring, like to be 100% sure that an event will occur. So how do we get to a stage where we know that something is to be done to reach a specific goal? So before we give the general case, let's go over an example, a really basic example. When you are a kid and know not much about the world, and then you are exposed to either from your parents or from anybody you know. You are exposed to sweets, to the presence of sweets. So the moment one of your parents gives you and you taste it, you will feel the taste. You will feel the pleasure of first time. And from that pleasure, somehow your capacity will remember the shape, the color of that sweet. And another day, on seeing another sweet going around, you will remind yourself of that shape, of that of the features of that sweet, so that you will remember the taste, and after this request for it. So here a lot of things are happening, and just in this simple example, the kid has learned a way to get a new pleasure, beneficial taste of sweets using specific capacities in movement communication. So what we want is the ideal, really work out an ideal way to get one such solution, knowing that we can't rely on people because they have very different ways of life. So here, after a lot of thought, deliberation, covering of many different topics around life, whether science or philosophy or all the fields that are available to me, I came up for myself with this ideal belief acquisition and use process. So ideal here means you have the resources of earth and one complete life of time and energy. As just a quick reminder, we can't rely on somebody else, so we have to do it on our own. And we start with the ideal version first, and later we discuss the reality, what happens in reality, in a more like in a timeless approach. So what happens for beliefs? Given any of your beliefs or candidate statement, its acquisition may entirely be defined by this ideal process. So here there's two major segments of this graph. So you are here, you are exposed to the world, from that you acquire beliefs. That's the kind of the first situation, and the second situation, which is maybe later or the same day or any unrelated time after, where you have an opportunity to use that belief to deliver some value. So here, acquisition, use, and the goal, the ultimate goal, as mentioned, the ultimate goal of life is to deliver value. And the strong truth that we are looking for is really here to deliver a value, that is to say a pleasure that is felt or a pain that is avoided. And so this whole process includes many different steps. We'll go over each and every single one of them. So just to give you the overall view. So at the beginning, there is sources of this event that are sources for new beliefs. So here in the case, in the example we covered just before, the kid tasting the sweet. The sweet was not in his, sweets before that event. Sweets were not existing in his life, and it is here what we call direct observation, where he felt the thing that it started to enter his beliefs. So we have different sources, direct observation and indirect observation, which is basically through systems. I separate it because of the specificities it has, as we'll see, and finally transmission, that is to say somebody else telling you something, and the existing beliefs can also act as a source as well, as we'll see later. From that step of sourcing, you have a step of analysis. So we can cut the analysis in 3 steps. The definition, where you start to name things and gather things into groups. You have the deliberation, where you finally, when you gather, make a decision out of all the clues you have, all the sources you have. And the logic, which is from one observation you can infer many other information, and this extra information may help you in the process of analyzing the validity of some statements. From that, you decide on what you understand from that situation that occurred. So here again, there will be a kind of a filter of information that may be dangerous for the later value delivery, and then you memorize it. So basic use of capacity, and the use is it starts with the recall of a situation where you can use a belief. So basic capacity here, and followed by questioning on how to adapt the belief to this new situation and relate it to the acquisition time, and finally application if there is some actions involved, and from that you check whether there is a value or not. So here, just as example, key testing the suite as a source. Looking at the suite, you define the shape, the colors seems to be representative, good representative pictures of what could deliver that taste. From the deliberation taste, you understand that taste comes from the sweet, and from logic you can derive that all sweets taste good, as the same one as the one you've tasted here. And the understanding statement, eat sweets to enjoy the taste, and you memorize the geometry, the person that give it to. Actually a bit more information is memorized here, but for now we just focus on the geometry, and it is recalled once you see this new suite that looks like the first one. And of course, in the adaptation, the kid typically will assume that it's the same suite, so it's going to be tasty, and you probably know that you've probably experienced surprises here in your life. And finally, the application, where he will request a new suite that may be accepted or rejected, leading ultimately to the kid enjoying the second suite or not. So in each of these steps we'll cover in detail, and typically our goal here is really to deliver a strong truth. We want really 100% of the time that value to be delivered, to feel the pleasure, to avoid the pain, and really the most one of the most important element of it is the direct observation, the one we'll see right now. What is an observation? It is the exposition of an agent called the observer to a pleasure, pain, or his involvement of body capacities to an occurring event. And here basically the rationale is very, very simple. If the event happened, it may happen again in the same condition events. That's like a direct path toward a strongly true belief, where the event is the candidate statement. But is a simple observation sufficient? Is to be exposed to a single event, is that sufficient to know that ultimately you will be able to reproduce it? So to address this question, we'll go over 2 examples. So first example is about turning an observation into a statement. So let's assume you have collected a list of gifts and you want to put them on a table in a single layer so that they look beautiful to the people you offer them to. However, on the table there is not enough room, so you decide to put gifts to try to make room. You decide to put gifts over the edge of the table. So a kind of a small part of the gift will be on the air. So the first attempt, you put the gift and you see that it holds, so you're happy because you have gained room. From that first observation, you kind of infer that you can do it. So the second attempt, you put the second gift, and this time you go a little bit too greedy and you go too far, and the gift starts to fall. So here, just a simple example, but what happened here, we can note that the repetition of the same observation helps identify the wrong belief immediately. If I hadn't done exactly the same thing, it's really nothing much more complicated, I wouldn't be as sure of my solution. So here we will refer later in this chapter, in this channel actually, entirely to significance as the number of times some observation is repeated. So here, now that the gift has fallen, should we stop? What do we do? We want to have this table ready. So we may give up the idea and put the thing on the table, put some of the gifts on the floor, which is not nice for the people. So instead we'll try to understand why the first attempt worked. So that involves at first kind of an exploration step to try and identify why the first situation worked. So we can be looking at many things here. A gift can be characterized by its length, its volume, its shape, its weight, its temperature, not necessarily the gift itself. It can be wind that have been responsible for something, the temperature, and so on. And of these properties, you can consider various relationships. Is it typically the quantity itself? Is it the length of the gift that poses a problem, or is it from certain length the gift will systematically fall, or is it typically the length on the table, the length on the air, and of course, as we'll see later, the ratio of quantity on the table over the quantity on the air seems to be the most relevant here. So these steps, where we take a peek at all that is happening around an observation, are called exploration steps, and they are required for any observation to be able to get to a statement. And here we will refer later to coverage as how much of these directions, how much of these possible scenarios have been covered, have been tested in your observation in order to figure out a statement. So among all the possible relevant understanding, which one have you tested and verified? So here we call that coverage, and it applies to exploration steps typically. So with this attempt, with this understanding, we try a third time. With this these directions, we try a third time. So the third time we focus on the first property, which was the length, which is kind of the most intuitive. The more you push the gift to the side, the more it has a risk to fall. And when you try that, you put the gift 10% on the air, it systematically holds. You take a gift, put it on the air, it systematically holds until 50%, and then after 50% it starts to systematically fall. So that's your kind of new belief at this stage. With this belief in mind, you start to put all the other gifts. Problem is the fourth gift happens to be a pan, and when you put the pan in that direction, it will fall way before 50%. So that belief we draw here is actually wrong, and since you're curious, you try immediately a fifth attempt where you try a different direction of that gift, and you see that according to the direction you can even go further than 70% if you put it in that. So here it highlights two other directions, the shape, the weight, to be looking to consider as the driving event behind the main contributing event behind the fall of the object. So that's what we focus on in order to be able to have at least a believable statement here. So sixth attempt, how do you test different shapes? Well, here you can use different. You you can use an equivalent, an object equivalent to a gift, typically magnets or Legos that will allow you to play on different shapes. Typically a square, something that is long, something that is transversal, or in a vertical object, and you try different combination of numbers of pieces on the air, numbers of pieces on the table, shape on the left, shape on the right, and very quickly you will notice that the surface is not important, and the object fall when the weight on the air is greater than the weight on the table. So here, after all these tests, all these observations, we can conclude that the length and surface are not to be noted or considered anymore. We can completely ignore them. So here, the fact that we removed some of the potential scenarios, we'll call that refinement across this channel. We refine the observation in order to simplify our beliefs, and later in a pragmatic situation to reduce quantity of used resources. So after this step, we finally have something that seems to hold. Like as long as the weight on the table is greater than the weight outside, all the gifts can be put on the table. So finally here 100%, which is what we're looking for a strong truth. So we can call that a fact, a proof, and evidence that this you can get more than 30 gifts, and those 30 gifts will hold on the table. But here, this statement just before we check if it's strongly true or not. I'm just considering a case that will be later useful. Now let's add a condition that you were on a plane all this time, this table, the gifts, and you. And at this time, the plane takes a turn. Now, despite all the observation we have observed, this turn will generate a centrifugal force on the gift, which will make them all fall. So all the rules, the 100% success that we got at this time, turns now to 0%, simply because of an event that we don't even control, we don't even pay attention to it. And this dynamic of movement is really has been here all the time. We just didn't comprehend it the right way, and just because of a specific event, it has, like the plane trajectory change, it has just changed all our beliefs. Just keep this example in mind for later. But now, after all these attempts, we have a final statement. So if I put all the gifts on the table and ensure that no gift has more than 50% of its weight on a sufficiently large table, all the gifts will fit. That's what we draw from our observation. And is that statement a strong truth? Well, it's very easy. The easy case where it's very easy to understand that it's not. If you put, as you put the last gift, one of the leg of the table breaks, and all the gifts falls on the floor. So this statement is wrong. It's not a strong truth. That's just an example. So just to conclude on that example, to design a statement from observation is not straightforward. You have a lot of effort may be required to improve the significance, the coverage, and the refinement of the former. And the occurrence of an event, which is really our goal, takes the whole world into account, and it may lead to many potential scenarios. Before generalizing these scenarios, we'll go over a second example just to clarify what is happening here. So in this second example, I want to use my computer to progress on my job, and I want really a strongly true belief that I will be able to use my computer. Just for information, computer is the result of high coverage, significant and refined observations done by many companies and research institutions, and they only tell you one thing to do to be able to use that computer is to push the start button. So that's what you do. And now let's just imagine many situations that may occur. You push the start button. That's the first belief. If I push the start button, the computer will work. The problem is when I do this, I observe with my senses that the computer does not start. And the actual thing that happened is I pushed the wrong button. So here the action failed, and to correct it, you just need to look closely at the start button when you push it to make sure you push the right one. So that's what we do in the second belief. I look at the start button, then push it, the computer will work. The problem is it doesn't work because there was actual event, there was a pressure sensor. The pressure sensor of the keyboard is broken, so it didn't detect that push. So here what happened is not your action that failed, it is what you expected from that action. This expectation is called relationship. So it's action related event that failed, and among these relationship you have cause consequence, which is the case here, but these are very subtle. We'll cover them in specific videos, the different relationships between events, but these can fail and prevent you from reaching your goal. Here to correct it, you can go to the PC repair shop and make sure it works. So you have a new person, a new agent out there entering the situation, and just as a note for now, we'll come back to it later when we discuss the limit, is the PC, the technician has to check that every single segment of every critical piece must be functioning, that is to say the keyboard, the motherboard, the CPU, memory screen. If you go into more details, it's billions of molecules that you need to check does not interfere with the operation of the critical function. And of course the technician will not check at this level, he will just check at tool level, and this leaves a hole for what could happen with the computer. Third belief, now that you've repaired the computer, you push again, and the belief starts to get longer. You look at the start button, then push it, the computer will work, but on breaking you bring it to the service repair. You push the button and the computer blocks at the blue screen, so it's not usable. What happened is the technician does not like you and has put the virus in it. So here it's the environment, somebody that you thought was not involved in the matter is actually have an interest in the matter, and here it's an agent. So as a correction, you go to reliable cybersecurity engineer and remove the virus. For information as a note, and we'll come back to it later, whenever there's another human agent, it means another human life model complexity to deal with, which is, as you start to guess now, not easy. And we haven't finished yet to cover the life model. So fourth belief, now that you found somebody reliable and you have it repaired, you push the button again, and this time there's no power because there was a storm around the power plant and it cut the power at this level. So here it's environment, the nature that gets into your problems. So you wait for power to restart and or get the computer with a battery. Fifth belief, again, you do all the steps. Now I am tired to write this down, all of them down, and it will be important later. So the computer remains black in this time, and what happened is happened that the last time you ate some food that was intoxicating you, and now you are just hallucinating. You don't see the correct the correct reality. In other words, the perception is failing, and since you talk with somebody, so your whole body is involved here in the matter. So you talk to somebody and he figures out that you don't detect things, so you diagnose it and cure that disease to try again once more, and this time is the final. The perception you don't remember, because what happened is a huge earthquake strikes. As you extend your hand to the computer, the walls falls on you, breaking the computer and causing deep irreversible brain damage, including amnesia. This scenario kind of can't prevent it. So everything matters for a strong truth, and in this case we were not able to figure out a way to get that guarantee that I will be able to work. So how do we generalize this observation now? After following these two examples, so an observation-based statement that we'll call later in shortcut observation, it's usually the statement that matters. It's a complex statement of events that can be defined by multiple sub-events. The observer, there's always somebody behind, because an observation is really, by definition, an agent feeling the pleasure, pain, or using his capacities. You will define as well, you will cut the reality into three different groups here, and it's really a virtual cut of the events. You will define systematically origin events, events believed to be relevant to initiate a chain of events. And here you will usually have your actions considered here. For example, put the gift on the table and release it. The second category is the origin-related events. So here you add a relationship to these events, and it's all those events that are believed, just the belief is sufficient to be related to the origin events. And the relationship here is really, it can be many different things, and it's the direction of that relationship is purely virtual. It's a message you can organize from cause to consequence or consequence to cause, no problem. And usually here you consider the events that are related to your actions, among whom cause, consequence, the effort you have to put, risks, opportunities, how you are perceived by other people, and your beliefs if you touch something that is important to you. So here the falling gift is not, you don't do it, it falls on its own, and it's the related event that you are really considering. Also at the typically third attempt, we believe that it was the length ratio that caused the box to fall. That's why we did our action that third attempt. So this relationship made us do our action. And finally is the third group, which is where you put everything else. It's the environment. It's all the events believed to be irrelevant to the relationship between the origin and its related events, and they may become reconsidered as one of these two groups if they interfere. So here, for example, the table legs, we didn't even think about it until they entered the game. And there's the last category that is usually, we don't mention it, but it's there, and it's very important, as we'll see. The measures, the way you measure, it's the events allowing an agent, the observer or all the agent involved in the origin events, to be aware of the origin events, the origin related events, and the environment. Typically looking at the computer screen, it may not be sufficient to just look, can also typically listen to the sound or check the different LED, and all these measures will vary in the way they in the information they give you about the state of things. So any observation is always there's always these underlying 5 categories, and the thing is whenever you make an observation, you systematically make there are sneaky statements that always gets involved in it. Until you clarify them, they are always involved. Typically, the origin-related events are only related to the origin events and not some other causes. That's like it goes. Whenever you say something, any statement, you will imply that it's the only thing responsible, while it can be other things. This one, until you clarify it, that's the message you send. Then second, by definition, the environment events are irrelevant to origin events and origin related events. So here the environment is like, we completely don't consider it, while actually it may completely drive the solution. And finally, the measures are sufficient to define all the other events. especially the non-interference of the environment as well. This one goes naturally, but it's actually a risk for later. And with this definition of an observation, you can see that basically an observation is really what you usually call an experiment protocol, and let's say protocol and result, taking the whole world into account. Since we are limited in our time, nobody bother to list out everything that happens, all the elements that may play a role into this observation, and this will be later a source of error. And with this definition of observation, it is interesting to note that every experience of life falls into an observation definition. The actions as the origin events, the action-related events as the origin-related events, the unconsidered events as the environment, and any body and soul capacities as measures. So the observation is really the strongest kind of the main way, the first intuitive main way to the strong truth. But as you guessed it, up to now, an observation-based statement cannot be a strong truth. Basically, it's one reason our knowledge of the space of event is not complete, and because of that, we can never be 100% sure that something will occur, or even will not occur. And these in pragmatic situations, there are I've noted 5 cases where they will systematically happen. These limits will systematically enter into will be relevant to whatever you are doing, and we're going to cover them. But all of them are just simple example of our limitation of knowledge, of our ability to know what events are happening out there. The first one, environment awareness. So the environment is too large to be considered within one lifetime, let alone at a single time, the time of your observation. Yet anything can interfere. We saw it with the plane. So here in the understanding drawn from observations, a third-party, unconsidered or unobserved event may actually be contributing to the occurrence of events. Or we saw it with technician, other agents with the same life model complexity as yourself may also interfere with your life and try and prevent you from reaching your goal. And the thing is, you can't know what everyone's doing. Can't be sure that somebody is not there to trouble your conclusions. So first, environment. Second is measurement limits. So now we'll focus on the action and the action-related events in particular. We know what we want to focus on. We look at it. We consider it. The problem is the way we measure things, the way we are aware of what's happening is also flawed because of our capacity limits. So really, any contributing events that occurs outside the human capacity limits is missed. So here as example, no, we don't see anything below 0.1 millimeter, and any body disease may interfere with the body functions. The good thing is here we covered all the limits. Of our capacity. So you just take any limit. If an event happens to have a contributing element, contributing event that occurs outside any of the limit, you know that. You cannot be sure of what you are saying for that observation, and the use of measurement systems will be covered in indirect observation. For now, it's only the body. I have a special section for it because it involves specific aspects that I want to cover in detail. Third element is accessibility. So here, looking at the world, you can see that many places are inaccessible. So distant space, all the stars, we can't investigate them in detail. All the underground below a certain depth, we haven't even set a foot. And there's some places that are sparsely explored: Antarctica, full continent, large mountain chains due to logistic issues, and Amazon forest, for example. So here any interference of these elements with whatever you're doing will go unnoticed. Then comes limits of large numbers. So here, even if we know a phenomenon in very detail, we can predict its behavior. The typical case is a pendulum. Here we can really have the equation of the movement, exactly how it's going to move. The phenomenon itself can become impossible to understand when you repeat it. When you have many, like a pendulum, like 4 or 5 pendulum at the same time on one string, when you try to put that, to try to predict it, it's impossible. It's so complicated, and the problem is just the repetition of the same thing. And the problem is that the whole world is made of these large numbers. If you look around you, there's trillions of space bodies. Even a single space body such as the sun is like billions of kilograms. So to investigate those numbers, it's like, even if we can't take 1 kilogram of an object and kind of explore what it's made of, what it contains in detail, understand its behavior, but billions, we are incapable of doing this. The Earth's atmosphere, like billions of liters of air as well. The Earth mass, same billions of kilograms, and here it would be happy just to identify. It would be happy to identify just oil and gas reserves easily, but no, it's since it's so extensive, we get into many complications to even get to access to that. To those resources, and it's even worse in living elements. It looks, I would not say worse, but it's impressive as well. In living elements, we have like just species. We have more than 300,000 plant species, millions species of animals. Of course, you have 8 billion human, and a single human is made of 30 trillion cells. Those are big, rough estimates, and 40 trillion microorganisms. Those are rough estimates. We can't even count them. It's too many, let alone understand their behavior. And even a cell itself is made of millions of proteins. So millions of trillions of billions. Good luck with even if you understand the behavior of a single molecule. Good luck generalizing anything at this level or at this one. So that's the problematic of large numbers. Then comes a special one as well, time. And time has one specialty: is we can't observe anything in the future. So we have a half cut or half plane that we can't observe. And the problem is time interface everywhere. Is like really everywhere. In almost every equations of behavior are time dependent. Have the life cycles, the movement of stars and so on. It's really movement of any object, of any vehicle, anything you see is really time dependent. And since we can't observe the future, anything that happens in the future or that is observable by looking at the future or is occurring across a large span of time, you will have trouble detecting it. You won't be able to detect it, and again, it's a flaw in the possible statements you can draw from your observation. And last one, just as a note, some experiments looking at the smallest scale, atom and subatomic particles, were usually referred to as quantum, because of that. At that scale, specific events happens. Among them, right now, it's agreed that there's a principle that occurs that is happening, where you can't. The equation tells you that you can't somehow figure out the position and the speed of a particle at the same time with perfect accuracy. If you try to get as many information about the position, you will necessarily know less about the speed, and inversely. So you can't know the whole thing at the same time, and that also again is a big flaw. That's one of the weird things that happened in quantum experiment. The observer effect as well is also very weird here, that prevents to know the whole thing, the whole picture, like explicitly. So it's another limit of any observation. So all of them together prevents you from getting that strong truth. So just as a conclusion from direct observations, to get from an observation to a believable statement, great efforts are required to improve significance, coverage, and refinement. And an observation-based statement is not it's not just a sentence. It's never just a sentence. It's really a combination of statements from an origin event to an origin-related events within an environment made by an observer using measurement events, and all of them are vulnerable to falsehood. And then, yes, the last one, the conclusion, is strong truth cannot be obtained due to the extensive complexity and partial lack of awareness of the space of all events that occurs. So that's for direct observation. Before we go, like kind of correct that strong truth, reassess our objective of strong truth. One may ask, can we achieve better with the use of systems, all these microscopes and all these natural laws that allows you to see more about the world, understand more about the world, especially in the last century. A lot of things happened. Can we use them to know better? And that's what I call indirect observation, and inshallah we'll cover that in the next video. Wassalamu alaikum.